All right, are you all ready?
Yeah.
State's ready, Judge.
All right, thank you. All right, the court is calling 2025 CR 006123, State versus Christina Lozano. Can I have parties announced?
Hunter Morris for the state.
And George Manning for the defense, Your Honor.
And are you Christina Lozano?
Yes.
All right, we're here today for sentencing. You entered a plea to count 1, paragraph A. The court found that there was sufficient evidence to find you guilty. I'm assuming there is no application for deferred adjudication. Is that correct?
Well, if I believe we should have submitted one, Judge, because really the agreement would be state is opposing deferred, but recommending probation, and that's basically the impasse if there is one.
All right. Did you want a PSI, or are you waiving PSI and I will hear argument?
There was a PSI done.
Oh, let me
so I
see.
reviewed it. Yes,
I don't have a copy of the PSI. Just one moment. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Have both parties reviewed the PSI?
The state has with no objections, Judge.
And I did as well, Your Honor. No objections.
Right, and you all are correct. I remember now receiving and reviewing this PSI because that's where we got the amount that's due. So, are there any witnesses from the state?
And none from the state, Judge. And in full candor, I believe the state was silent on the defendant's application.
That is true. Any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
All right, then the court will hear your argument for deferred.
Well, Your Honor, after reviewing the PSI, I can say with full confidence that Ms. Lozano did admit guilt. She knows morally what she did was wrong. She took accountability. There weren't statements in there like this didn't happen. It wasn't that big of a deal. She has been in therapy. She has PTSD, depression. She was sexually abused as a child. She does have a fiance that's in Mexico that she would like to move here. Can't be here because of immigration issues. But taking it back to the offense, Judge, she knows that just because she was going through financial difficulty, that doesn't justify her actions. And what I would like to say is to take nothing away from the victim impact statement. However, 2 of the victims were less than 30. And while one of the victims, yes, Ms. Finland, is technically elderly, it may not be targeting an elderly individual in the same sense as, maybe cases where somebody works at a nursing home and takes somebody out of somebody's purse or something to that effect. There were other victims as well, and they weren't elderly individuals. But going on, Judge, she did pay restitution as well, start paying to the detective on behalf of the Thomases, which shows that she knew what she did was wrong. She's trying to make it better. And in the statement from the Thomases, they said they believed, that she deserved a second chance, maybe depending on her criminal history. That's what Mr. Thomas had said. Of course, from the PSI, it's evident that she has no criminal history other than these charges. So this isn't a repeat compulsive sort of problem, Your Honor. I know what someone of your stature, someone in charge of a district court may be looking at these sorts of offenses and thinking, is this a compulsive pattern where somebody is constantly targeting elderly individuals and committing crimes of moral turpitude? But it's never happened before. I believe firmly, after representing Ms. Lozano and talking to her, coaching her through this case, it will never happen again. She knows it's very serious and she will never want to be in this position again. From the victim impact statement from Ms. Finland, I didn't really understand if it seemed like she talked a lot about thinking community service of some sort was appropriate. But I can't really articulate it. It didn't really say anything specific as far as if she thought some sort of deferred was appropriate or anything of that nature. So I can leave the state to decide that. But it did say several things about different suggestions for community service, like gift wrapping at Christmas and working with animals or something to that effect. So again, Your Honor, in the future, she knows that this should never happen again, and she is looking at future career options such as continuing as a medical assistant, or perhaps trying to get her nurse's license, being an LVN, RN, taking that route. So I believe, Your Honor, that she does deserve deferred. As you know, there are a lot of consequences on deferred. It's not an easy road. She can be adjudicated guilty. She can become a convicted felon and have crimes of moral turpitude on her record. She can face a jail sanction for up to 180 days. She can face TDC, more importantly. So because of the consequences, Your Honor, and because deferred also gives the court room to punish her if anything does happen again, or if she's not compliant with probation, I'd ask the court to place my client on deferred adjudication and give her a second chance to make this right, and perhaps in the future avoid becoming a convicted felon.
All right. Is there anything you wish to say?
No.
All right. Well, I have some questions. Any objections to the court asking questions?
No, Your Honor.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
This is
All right. You can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
Christina Malala.
All right. So I've read the PSI report, and in the PSI report, when you're asked questions about using these cards, you say you don't remember. What is that about?
I mean, I remember using the cards. I think it was more just kind of in general, like kind of how the day went. Even though I know I committed a crime, I mean, it still is something that weighs on me every day. Never been in trouble. I don't do things like this. And so that's kind of where I didn't remember. It wasn't that I didn't remember necessarily committing the crime.
No, it says the defendant was asked about the details in the offense report, stating that she used the card to pay for her rent, but stated once more that she did not remember. This officer then pressed her recollection and encouraged her to be honest, and she reported that she did use the card multiple times. She reported that she attempted to pay her rent first, but was adamant that all transactions were unsuccessful. She was asked about her financial situation at that time, and she stated that she was struggling financially and had to pay for rent, car payment, insurance, and was not managing her money correctly. The defendant was asked about the purchase with the Randolph Brooks card at Amazon and Cash App, and stated that she doesn't remember the transactions, but they must have happened. So I'm trying to figure out, how are you unable to remember that you made transactions on these cards? Because your statement in here says that you only remember attempting to pay your rent and it didn't go through, and that you're adamant that all transactions were unsuccessful.
Yeah, so I remember clearly that it was for my rent. I don't, when she mentioned about the other charges, I was not aware that I made those charges. I mean, I possibly could have, but I remember being used for the rent because that's what was the most important at that time that I needed.
But I mean, it said that the payment for the rent was unsuccessful.
Correct. Yeah, I didn't.
So you don't remember using it for other things?
I do not.
This Amazon and Cash App? So why do you think it would be okay to take someone else's cards to pay for your rent?
It's not correct. It was
But I mean, you did it. So why did you think that was the route to go?
because I thought it was an easy way, and I realized very quickly that that was not correct. And it doesn't matter what situation I'm in.
So when did you realize that that wasn't correct? So you had the unsuccessful, according to you, you attempted to pay your rent. It was unsuccessful. So did you remember at that time?
At that time, I was like, this is wrong, and I threw it away because I thought
All right.
that was
So you're saying it was wrong, but then after that, there's an Amazon purchase and there's Cash App purchase. So what do you mean you realized it was wrong, but according to this, you continued to use it?
like I said, I definitely do not recall using it on Amazon. I can't remember at this moment what I even would have used it for in that moment. I do 100% remember using it for my rent, and I just felt super awful and made me feel so bad because I was like, oh my God, like, what is that person going through? That, my issue, I could have figured out a different way. And that's how I felt in that moment. I
And
don't,
why did you stop paying? Because it appears that, who knows, I'm not with the police department or with the DA's office, but it appears that you were making payments and then you ended up ghosting that person and stopping making payments. Why?
so I was making the payments and then I unfortunately had to get a new phone because I was in financial issues. So I had to get a new number. And when I had called the police department where me and the detective had met, I couldn't get a hold of him. I had tried calling 4 different times. I couldn't remember his name, but I had the receipts of what I had paid and I was trying to ask like, hey, could someone get me in contact with the person I was speaking with? And I was just never able to get in contact.
Did you go to the police station?
I didn't.
Why not? That's the best way to find this person if you truly want to make amends.
Right.
So why didn't you?
It just wasn't something that crossed my mind.
And then you said that the reason why you're in these difficulties was because you were not managing your money appropriately. What do you mean by that?
I just wasn't budgeting correctly and I had a car payment that was just way too expensive and I wasn't able to afford and rent at the same time. And I needed to be responsible and get rid of that car.
And why didn't you get rid of that car?
I think it was just my not wanting to see, like, just not wanting my family to realize that I wasn't making it. I think that was just kind of the biggest thing.
And do you still have that car?
I
So when did you get rid of that car?
believe it was like a month after this incident.
Mhm.
I gave it back to the bank that I was.
So I'm trying to make a decision on whether or not to give you deferred. What I can tell you is people on probation in this court, I don't allow them to work with vulnerable people. So you're not going to be in the home healthcare field where you're dealing with patients. You're not allowed to work with minors. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So this is me trying to figure out whether or not to give you deferred. And this is my question for you. With your stealing of those credit cards and using them, what do you think the person whose cards they belong to, what do you think they had to do to straighten all of that out?
Go to their banks, make phone calls. I know it's definitely a long process. I've had the same situation happen to me and it's a very, very difficult process.
So no, I mean, what process? I'm
having to call your bank and, verify those charges and have them go through the fraud process and then having to get those cards reinstated back to you, which can take 8 to 10 business days for them to come in the mail.
And then what do you think happens if they have money in their bank account and they have bills that are coming monthly out of that account and those bills are not getting paid because you stole it and you are using money? So maybe they think they have, $6,500 there, and that $6,500 is there because that's where their mortgage comes from, their car payment, their utilities, and now everything is bouncing. I don't know, do they still call it bouncing? That's what we called it when a check would bounce or it would bounce and everything is bouncing. And what you're failing to realize is that when you have a bank account, and maybe if you have a check that bounces, you know what ends up happening?
They charge you.
Now, your bank charges you the overdraft fee. And then now they do it where whatever account was trying to get that money, they charge you a fee. So for the person who has their utilities coming out of their account, they're probably not checking it. They're thinking, oh, everything is fine. Maybe they come home and their utilities are off. And then you know what? It's a snowball effect because then they have to call the utility company searching why they don't have their money. And then guess what? Then pay the utility company extra because they're going to pay you a fee to turn your electricity back on, right? Mm-hmm. So that's extra. And then you have to pay them because your check bounced. And then you have to pay the bank because you had an overdraft. And even when people have overdraft protections, there's a fee associated with that. It's just not like the bank saying, oh, we're giving you free overdraft protection. So I don't know if you're internalizing everything. And if you're telling me that in the past you've had this happen to you before, yes. I don't know if you should get deferred adjudication counsel.
Well, Judge, she has taken a plea. I can tell you without violating any lawyer-client confidentiality, she's never been the type of client to lack accountability and tell me this is just all bogus. It never happened this way. They're lying. There's none of that. We discussed this case and she came to a decision very quickly. And and I know she realizes the impact of her actions. I will say with respect to credit card fraud, every bank is a little bit different. It happened to me a few months ago, or maybe about 5 weeks ago. Have USAA, within about 5 days, it was all cleared up.
I mean, I understand that, but somebody is paying for it, right? Even if the bank says, hey, we realize that this was fraud and it's not you, and we're going to put that money back in your account. They're not just putting that money back in the account and saying, oh, well, that money that they're putting back in the account, trust me, they're passing it along to their customers some kind of way, even though they probably have insurance for fraud. So it's not just, oh, we're not hurting anybody by doing this.
No, and I agree. I mean, I understand that my actions were very wrong, and that would never happen again. And I do feel very sorry for the victim because like I said, I have been in that situation and it's not something that's easy at all.
Were you in that situation before or after this happened?
Before.
So I don't know if you're sympathetic or not because you wouldn't have done this. And sometimes when people are having financial hardships, if you just ask for help, usually people will help you. But you can't work in any offices or anything because you can't be trusted in an office. And that's just based upon this. And you can't work around any money. I'm not going to allow it. And that's based upon this. So are you currently employed? So how are you supporting yourself?
I had got fired for this case, and I took out my 401k, and that's kind of what I've been using.
So here's my question. And I always say taking out 401k, usually people do that a lot. Why didn't you just take money out of your 401k when you were struggling with car payments and everything instead of stealing?
At that time, I was transferring jobs, so I didn't have I had only been at my job for 6 months, and then I had transitioned to a different job, so I didn't have a 401k, like anything available.
But now that you're unemployed, you have a 401k.
Because I had been with my company for the last 2 years before this case.
All right. Anything else?
Again, Your Honor, she has, I believe, from the PSI taken accountability, though she wasn't totally clear on the details. That doesn't mean she contradicted any of the events or she's here saying this didn't happen. She's pled to all of it. She's making an effort at restitution. She already has paid in the past. I'll reiterate that deferred isn't an easy road. And there are so many ways that the court could come back and teach her a lesson if she were to violate, including prison.
All right. Well, this is what I'm going to tell you. This is a crime of moral turpitude. And whether you have deferred or conviction, it's always going to be a crime of moral turpitude, and it's going to be on your record. And anything that requires you to have a license, this is going to pop up. And you may be precluded from having license. That goes for cosmetology, whatever business that requires you to have a license, this is going to pop up. You understand? All right, the court will sentence you to 8 years, deferred adjudication. There's to be regular reporting by Zoom or in person. There's to be regular random UAs, proof of employment within 45 days. There's to be no employment as a home health care provider or with minors. Field visits 1 time per month for 6 months. There's a remaining restitution to Lauren Thomas of $875. There's to be restitution to Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union in the amount of $36.74.
And Judge,
Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt, but for restitution, after reading Ms. Finland's statement and talking with defense, can we bring the fine down to $750 and add $250 in restitution to Ms. Finland for the cash missing from the wallet?
Defense?
Yes, that's what we had agreed upon, Judge, because that wasn't accounted for.
Okay. So then that's a remaining balance of $1,125?
That'd be correct.
All right. So the remaining restitution to Ms. Thomas is $1,125. And then restitution to Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union in the amount of $36.74. There's to be no contact with Deborah Finland and Lauren Thomas. The MRT course, 150 hours of community service restitution. You'll have to do those hours at an approved restitution center. Probation will let you know which places are approved. If there is something that you're interested in, let them know and we'll see if there's an approved place for that. Usually it's the San Antonio Food Bank, but if there's a shelter and you want to do it at the shelter, you can do it at the shelter. All right. And Ms. Abrams, when I say shelter, I mean the animal shelter. All right. And then there's a $1,000 fine, and that will be probated. And the state will take in consideration CC 734399. Probation, is there anything else? Okay. You had mentioned that your client was suffering PTSD.
Yes, Your Honor. She's personally, she uses telehealth therapy services right now for counseling.
All right. Rashawn, can you, out of custody, can you do have her evaluated for MIC? Okay. Is there anything else you need from the court to be successful? No. All right. Did you review the document entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal with your attorney? Did you understand it and sign it?
Yes.
Because this is a plea bargain agreement, because I followed your plea bargain agreement, and because you waived your right to appeal, you do not have the court's permission to appeal. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. We can go off the record. Here's the thing, and this is what my grandmother would always tell me, my mom tells me, and this just goes through our family. And the number one thing is you cannot build your happiness off somebody else's misery. So even if you think it's a shortcut for you, you need to ask yourself, am I making somebody else's life miserable? And if the answer is yes, don't do it. Now, you're on deferred adjudication. If you successfully complete it, you won't have a conviction on your record. However, this is always going to be on your record. And anytime you try to apply for a license, it's best that you be truthful with them up front, because you know what's going to end up happening. If you say no, they're going to you may end up getting the job, but then when that background check comes through, they're going to see this and usually they will fire you. Do you understand? The other thing about deferred adjudication, if you don't successfully complete it, you're looking at potentially 20 years in the prison. You understand?
Yes.
And this court communication is key. If there's an issue, you need to let your probation officer know about it. If you feel that they're not addressing it, you can always come back to court, but do not ghost them. You understand? All right. Good luck to you. Is there a impact statement or no?
Just real quick, just for restitution clarification, my understanding is that Ms. Lozano paid $825 today, by today, for the Thomases, so she owes $875 to the Thomases. My understanding is she also paid Randolph Brooks, and so it would just be the $870 and then $250 to Miss Finland. No,
I thought you all were adding $250 to the $875 because she paid $825, and you all told me that the balance was in the beginning was $1,700. And so then that left the $875, and I thought you all were adding $250 to $875.
So we are adding $250, Judge, but not to the Thomases. That's to go to Miss Finland, who's the individual that wrote the letter.
All right, just 1 second. We're back on the record. So there is a restitution to Lauren Thomas of $875. That's the balance. And then you say that Randolph Brooks has been paid?
That's my understanding, Judge.
All right, then there's no restitution to Randolph Brooks. And then Finland, what is the first name?
Deborah, Judge.
All right, so then to Deborah Finland, there's to be restitution of $250.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
All right, so that the record is clear, the amounts that are owed are $875 to Lauren Thomas and $250 to Deborah Finland. The restitution to Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union has been paid in full.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Judge.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your seminar and go to Mayfield and see the peacocks.
Yes, ma'am. It's a nature preserve too. It looks fun.
Oh yeah, it is. And do you know at that place, that's the first time I saw a peacock that was completely white.
Oh wow, I've never seen an entirely white peacock.
Yeah, entirely white, but they still had the plumage.
Now I need to go.
All right. Have a good one. Enjoy your seminar.
Thank you, Judge. Good to see you.
Thank you. You too.